they are now asking for all monuments of the white Jesus to be torn down.
Yeah, I saw a little bit on it, and yeah, it's about to get. I don't even know how to describe what it seems like the direction that it's going right now.
Yes. I was talking to somebody. I was like, man, it's not far from going from all statues of white Jesus to, man, some stuff in the Bible say stuff about gay people, say stuff about men over.
Yes.
It ain't that far off. It ain't that
Yeah.
far off. And Christians eating it up. Yeah, tear down the white Jesus statue. I'm like, y'all crazy, man.
Yeah, it's coming. It's and I think that's kind of the direction that things are really just taking anyway, with anything in the Bible that goes against a person's preference and their feelings on anything, whether it's the lifestyle that they live. That's why when I've actually just jumped back into Abdul Murray's book, Saving Truth, where he's talking about this post-truth world, and he's really digging in how our preferences are overriding just everything right now. And so with that in mind, how can we defend the truth and stand for the truth in the midst of the climate of our culture right now is going to be very important.
Wow. What's his name? Abdul Murray?
Yeah, he's a part of the RZIM team. He's with the late great Ravi Zacharias, and so yeah, Abdul Murray, he's really good too. He's out of some of the people that were on their staff, he is one that I think does a really good job when he's up there in the midst of answering the questions. He does a really good job. He's actually, he grew up in a Muslim household and environment, so he's actually someone that had these tough questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Yeah, I got to check that out. Abdul Murray. Yeah, I'm jumping back into Francis Schaeffer right now. I'm getting ready for this weekend to talk about the God of absolutes, how we've taken
Yeah.
absolute out of the equation. There are no absolutes. Like, that's your truth. This is my truth. And man, that's just shaky ground to be on. Now, I'm even hearing Christians use some of this lingo, and I'm like, man, y'all are bringing all these world ideologies into the church and acting like that's just in the Bible somewhere, bro. That's not in the Bible nowhere.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? And me and you've been discussing about going back to the basics and really just digging into certain things. I'm my friend Dr. Daniel Napier, he actually sent me some of his teachings that he hasn't really got out there yet, but I'm reading some of his stuff, and he really deals with what it looks like to have a transformed life and to kind of like help people to get that basic understanding of what that looks like and what the word of the kingdom does in a person's life. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I'm digging into some of that because I want to kind of, anybody that I'm pouring into, I kind of want to do some of those things with them. I want them to have a certain level of understanding. And as I was reading, it's interesting. I was reading in Matthew 13, and you get to the point to where they ask Jesus, why do you talk in parables? And he says, because the mysteries or the secrets of the kingdom is for you, not for them. And he goes on to talk about it fulfills the prophet Isaiah. But one of the things it says is that when he's running through that scripture reference, he says, seeing you won't, having eyes you won't see, and having ears you won't hear. And then he talks about having understanding unless you turn and I would heal you. And I just began to reflect. I was like, so there has to be a certain level of understanding at the heart level for a person even wanting to turn. And so I spent the rest of my night, even laying in the bed, when I closed that up, that was the last thing I read. And I began to think, how can we help people at the heart level? Right? That's the level, that's the soil in that parable anyway, what can we do at the heart level for people to be in to start soaking up the necessary nutrients and stuff that they need, that they won't turn away from the word in their life, and so that they'll get that understanding and won't allow that to be taken away from them.
That's what's up. That's what's up right there. And yeah, I know Robbie even talks about that to a certain degree. He talks about, man, connecting with people's hearts.
Yeah.
And right now, man, people's hearts are, that's good, Jay, because it feels like people's hearts are in the way. Like, it's just like, I just want to feel, and I just want to be, and I just want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like, I never would have thought in my adult life that I would have to literally, like, stay in the house. Like, can't go out. You know, like, I can't go out, you know what I mean? But, like, the way that the world is just shifting. And I saw somebody did a post. They were like, man, first it was the corona. Then it was all the riots. And then it was something else. They said, man, do I need a mask, a gun? I don't know what I need when I leave the house every day. Because, man, like, the world is just losing it.
Christine posted,
yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah. I'm like, man, like, the world is really losing it, bro. Like,
yes, sir.
And it's like it's happening so quickly. It's happening so quickly. Like, out of nowhere, it's just like, oh, we need to tear down statues and we need to reform this. And like, I mean, like, literally in weeks, it just.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of it has to do with the political stuff that's coming up and people trying to pander to that. But, man, it shows you, man, how I was talking to SJ, and it's like, man, or was I talking to Anne Marie? It was somebody in my house, you know. But they were literally saying, you can see how quickly someone can come in and be like a false Christ and offer solutions, and people will just follow them. Like, yeah. And throw a miracle in there, like in the book of Revelation, throw a miracle or two in there. Oh, man.
Yes.
People ready to get off course.
Hey, and you know what's interesting? I'm gonna go back to that parable of the sower. Reading that, and then kind of reflecting on some of the things that Dr. Napier said. He talked about we live and die by, and I'm paraphrasing, live and die by our ideas. He said, for good or for bad. And just think about the ideas that we have, not only about God, who he is, what we have about ourselves, and even just what we have about the world that we see. That type of ideas and understanding that we have is going to dictate everything that we do. And so the people out here that are kind of just running around going crazy right now, it's actually showing what they really believe, no matter what they've posted on social media, no matter what kind of mask they put on in front of other people at church or just around their family. Stuff is really showing what they had in their heart. That's why when you talk about the reasoning why you follow Jesus, he presents so much truth. Because that one teaching where he says what's in the heart will eventually come out, we see that happening over and over and over in our culture today.
Yeah. That's crazy, bro, how the gospel is not impacting people's hearts because we've heard a false gospel preached for so long. The gospel of works, the gospel of go to church, and not the gospel of, the simplicity of the gospel that Christ died for your wicked heart, got you back in restored relationship with God, and now your heart needs to be transformed towards him. And people just don't, man, I can't tell you how many people have hit me up. Another person just hit me up 2 nights ago about they watched that American Gospel documentary on Netflix. Yeah. They were like, everything I believe my whole life. Oh my God. Like, just minds are blown. And that's just the truth of the gospel. It's I don't know, bro. So many people out there just.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I was thinking, you were talking about the American Gospel. I've had a couple of people ask me, have I watched it? I was like, oh yeah, I've watched it. You know what's interesting? I was thinking, another important thing, even like going back to the basics, but I think another thing that needs to be really taught right now, because we have a lot of prosperity gospel preaching, but we have some new people, me and you've talked about this, that are kind of more covert with it. Like some of these people out here that everybody's listening to, these young guys. And like, if you don't understand what the real gospel message is, you'll buy into all of that. And that's dangerous, because it can take your faith somewhere else where it was not intended to go. And then when you don't see the results that you're thinking that you're going to get, then you begin to get frustrated. And that's why so many people are going crazy when they watch that documentary, because they're like, oh, wow, I actually believe some of the stuff that these people were telling me.
Yeah. Yep. Just, sowing that false seed, man. Like you said, man, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head a second ago, man. It goes back to the heart. And the thing about it, man, is like, I can remember when I first believed, it was like there was this immediate change. Even though I had some inabilities to walk some of it out, there was this immediate change, though, where there was so much conviction when I just did my own thing and went out there and, oh, I don't care, I'm just going to do it. Man, there was so much conviction. It was almost like death was all around me when I was just going to do what I wanted to do. And it's like God was saying, oh, you just going to do what you want to do. No, you see what I was saying, Lord, was... But yeah, we don't really believe anymore that the gospel changes us immediately, and then we start walking out our sanctification. I think some people are like, I'm gonna get to it. And that's why I'm gonna be hitting on this weekend when I talk about the absolutes. Like, God wants us, like the Andrew Murray book, he wants us to surrender absolutely. He ain't like surrender just a little bit to me at a time, because we really got to a place where I'm gonna work on me. I'm gonna work on me gospel. I'm gonna do a little bit, and I'm gonna do a little better. And then, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. But it's like, nah, man, God didn't come to play pity-pat with you.
Yeah. Hey, and you brought up somebody that a lot of people don't really read or don't even know about, Murray. He hits home in so many areas, and he's like, hey, he's getting straight to it. You need to understand, you need to be humble, you need to surrender, all of those different things. You read Murray, you might some people might say, I didn't sign up
for none of this. None of this. But they canceling him nowadays too, because he ain't gay or black or a woman or I'm like, man, y'all tripping. When y'all can only hear from a certain segment of the population now. Y'all tripping.
Man. Hey,
but the truth of the matter, they don't want to hear me either, though, Jay.
Yeah. Oh, it's that popcorn picking and choosing regardless. I don't care what color you are, even if you are black. Well, I don't want to hear what he got to say, even though he's black. I want to hear this type of blackness.
Yeah. And I be sliding in people's. I had one person reach out. They were like, man, I'm so glad for what you're speaking right now, because it's a lack of. I'm not saying anything that I haven't been saying. Like I have a new message right now.
Yeah.
Like this stuff, it's like, but it's so, I guess, diametrically opposed to a lot of what they're hearing right now. I was talking to one dude the other day. I said, man, I don't really agree with that whole racial reconciliation kind of talk. And he was like, why not? And I said, man, when I first started hearing it, I was like, okay, let me check this out. And I kind of went through some conferences and stuff. But I asked him, he said, do you mind if I ask why? I said, basically, who is the spokesperson for all the races that's going to help us all reconcile? Like, who's the person going to get, and what's the legislation that's going to go forward that's going to legislate my heart? What I say, reconciliation have to happen on a person-to-person level. You just can't reconcile a whole race to another whole race. And the language don't even sound right. The language don't even sound right.
But you know what's interesting, man? You just said something that's powerful, and I'm going to show you. The part that's the problem with a lot of people is you actually took the time to think about that whole concept in general, right? You're like, okay, racial reconciliation. Who's going to be the spokesperson? Who's going to do this for each race? And like, people are not thinking that. They just hear a concept and they just run with it. Oh, racial. That sounds powerful. That sounds real. That's what we need. Yeah, we may need some reconciliation. But as believers, and people don't like when you take them back to the word, but but what in the word is where we are.
That's what I'm talking about. Tell me
You
what
know
the
what I mean?
Bible says.
Tell me what the Bible say. And I mean, it's simple. The word tells us that we ought to be, we have a ministry of reconciliation. We ought to be reconciling people to God first, right? Letting them know that because of Christ, we are now in right standing with God. And from there, we can go different places. But a lot of it's going to happen one-on-one. And I love it. You just said, how can one person be the spokesperson that's going to fix everything between this race and that race? That's not going to happen.
Mm-mm. And the bigger thing I said, man, we need so much inter-race reconciliation.
Yeah.
It's easy to just put a tag on something because it's hot right now. You saw something that made you angry and upset and it reminded you of your cousin, but you can put a tag on something. But what about when you was mad at this person? What kind of reconciliation needs to happen there, right? You just can't wholesale say that every white person and every black person needs to come together and sit down and just have a conversation. It ain't gonna happen. That makes no sense. You don't approach any other relationship in the world that way. Yeah. And I often say, man, if we start with race, we'll end with race. So how about we start with, you were a jerk to this person. These people need to get it together.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to do a little research right now. Man, I got so much on my plate right now, though, but trying to see how the first century church would reconcile not being like the Jews, not worshiping like the Gentiles, but being a new kind of diametric diamond. I don't know where that word came from. It just popped out of my mouth today. But being a new type of person, like this third race of people, right? Because before the church, it was just Jews and Gentiles. That was a biblical categories. And now we have Jews, we have the Greeks or the Gentiles, and then we have the church, which is this new race. And the Bible tells us we're a new race. And I know some people try to argue over, the Hellenistic Jews and they were arguing over. That's just people, man. But they understood that they were a new man through Christ and what Christ came to do.
Yeah.
And so, man, we need to really dig up this theology. People think theology is this thing where, man, that's for eggheads and professors to think about. No, man, that's why I like Kevin Van Hooser's books, Everyday Theology. Like, your theology needs to inform the way that you live. How you see God informs the way that you live. And that's why we're going right back to God. Who is God? And this is going to inform the way that I live my life. But so many people just want him to be a homeboy that, whenever I get in trouble, I call on his name. I was listening to this dude.
All the bullies.
Yeah, I was listening to this dude. He was on this thing last night talking to one of the newscasters. I believe the Lord Jesus Christ, my God. I believe he was a black man. And the newscaster was like, no, well, actually he was from the Middle East. He was Middle Eastern. Nah, he was a black man. The Bible said he had hair like wool and feet like bronze. I'm like, man, if somebody else quote that scripture out of context.
Yeah.
And don't even worry about the next thing that came out of his mouth was a two-edged sword. Like, I never seen a two-edged sword mouth person. And his hair was white like wool, not textured like wool. Like, come on, bro. But yeah, so we just divide over race. And I'm even experiencing some African friends, man. They tripping over the way we acting over here in America right now. They're like, y'all wilding out. I don't even get it. I don't even get what kind of Christianity y'all going through right now.
And that's why it's time for people like you and me and some of the other people we know to just go ahead and stand right now and say, this is not what it looks like to follow Christ. Let us be an example of some kind of way. Not that we're going to do it perfectly, not that we have all the answers, but we're putting forth some things in our daily lives and we're willing to stand. Like I told somebody recently, hey, if I stand for the truth and people want to attack me, it's okay. I got thick skin. You know what I mean?
Right, not your skin.
You know what I mean? If I got to take the heat right now, that may cause some other people to get on the right track and say, hey, I need to keep staying with this thing. And so that's what needs to happen. Yep. And that's why I tell you all the time when you say, man, I'm finna get ready to start talking about this, get it going, because it's something that needs to be said. And one thing I've always learned, even when I was in prison, man, I was telling my cousin earlier, even when I was in prison, I had to stand for some certain things and be an example to other believers that were giving their life over to Christ in there. And when you stand for something, I've had people come back and tell me, even in prison, man, keep doing what you're doing. I'll follow you wherever. I was like, no, you don't need to follow me wherever. But I've had people tell me that in there. They were like, man, I'll follow you. And I was like, no, you don't need to worry about following me. They were like, no, I'm not talking about like that, but I look at your example and I say, I appreciate it. Just keep praying. But we're gonna do what God says and not what they want us to do in here as prisoners.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. Like, yeah, I know that's weird, because I was in Nicaragua one time and the dude was like, yeah, man, wherever you go, I'll follow you. I'm like, nah, bro, because I'm going back to the States. I ain't staying down here, and I know you ain't ready to go up there, so.
Yes, sir.
But it's weird, because a lot of people haven't seen an example of someone who's just going to live their life for Christ, right? Like what you do with the Conduits of Change, and before it was Conduits of Change, it was Jedadiah, J Baker Ministries, and before it was J Baker Ministries, it was just Jay going out and doing it, right? Like before it even gets formalized and put a name to it, just going out and doing that. And I was looking back over all the harebrained schemes I've had over the years, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this, and I was just trying stuff, man, because it's like I'm gonna find out where I fit, even if I gotta do 15 things wrong. I'm gonna find out where I fit. And so many people are scared to do stuff wrong. They just sit there and they just don't do nothing. And it's crazy, man. I can, man, when we used to hit them streets and evangelize, boy, I did not want to do that every week.
Yes, sir.
You know, until the Lord released us from doing it. We did it for 2 years straight. And I'm like, man, this ain't fruitful for me. I ain't got this anointing. But I was failing trying. Just keep at it. I went out there one time and them folks didn't want, so I just left. Man, come on, bro. You gotta learn to live your life in a way that you understand that God has purpose for us as believers and followers of him. And if we're not trying to walk after his purpose, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And I'm going to tell you something. When you remember when we first met, and we was just always meeting at Starbucks, and we were supposed to have like a 30-minute meeting, and the next thing you know, it'd be 2 hours, and Anne Marie is calling like, where you at? And
yeah.
It was so powerful because I was like, man, this is another brother that really gets the whole idea about discipleship. Like, the crazy part about it was that me and you were both kind of ministering to other people that didn't even go to the churches that we went to.
Yeah.
Like other ministers or just brothers in general that didn't have anybody to talk to. They couldn't get to their pastor or whatever it was. We were both doing that. And so we were just like sharing stories, and the next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. But people need to see that. Like even right now, people need to see that it's important to do life with people on a certain level, that you're there, even if they're at a different church or whatever it is. They need to see that right now. They need to see that you're willing to invest. I'll quote Dr. Napier again, man. He said something one time that was so powerful when he was reflecting on the scripture where it says, lay up your treasure in heaven in Matthew. I think it's in Matthew 6. Don't lay up your treasure where moth and all that stuff can eat it up. But
yeah. He
said, think about this. He said, what is the greatest investment that you can make in this world? He said, it's to invest in people. I said, oh man. And so I think about that constantly, investing in people in all kind of different ways. When they see that you really care about them, they'll be willing to continue.
That's what's up, man. Like, we can't deny it. We are in the people business, and I see ministers and pastors, man, I'm like, come on, bro. Like, you in the people business.
Yes,
like,
sir.
You thought it was just about standing up there and preaching until you preaching a good word and ain't nobody doing it. Like that run out quick. That get tired quick. And so, unless you're a celebrity, man, you got to be about the Father's business, and that's about people first. We are on a reconnaissance mission, man. So what else have you been getting out of Colossians, man? I've been digging in a little bit too, man.
Man, I've been really looking at the attire. That's when you get that message, you're gonna hear me talking about the two different attires. The turmoil-ridden attire that is something that we need to take off as believers. It doesn't fit well with somebody that has decided to follow Christ. And so I've been really kind of just looking at this old man and the old way that he used to live. And I just reflected on, man, I used to wear a lot of this attire and I wore it well, right? When I was in the world, I wore it well. And then I also take the time to just reflect on the attire that is tailored for righteousness, right? And we're called to live a certain way. And I just look at being compassionate and humble and all of these things. And he ties it up with saying that put on love because it binds everything together. And then he goes in to start talking about this peace that we ought to have among each other, but just be peacemakers out in the world. And it's like, man, that is so unpopular to live a peaceful life among everybody, and even just to walk out love. That's and that's why I even, like, a lot of people don't read Martin Luther King, but I'm reading so much of his stuff, and he stood out among all of the other civil rights leaders because he really focused on the message of Christ and he focused on love. Like, everybody else got to the point to where they were so angry that they had to go and do something. They wanted to go and do something violently, but he stood. He was like, yeah, I understand where they're coming from and I can understand their frustration. But he would always go back and say, but I have a set of principles that I'm going to stand on, and nonviolence is actually a way of life for me. It's not something that I just say, it's something that I live by. And when he gets to talking like that and I'm reading these words, I'm like, this guy is brilliant. And he's one of the people that people don't talk a lot about. You hear about his speeches and all of this, but this guy talks so much about living a lifestyle that is in obedience with Christ in the way that we are supposed to live among everybody, not just people that look like us, even though he fought for causes for minorities and blacks. But it was about just poverty and all of these things all over the world. And so just walking out that love and even being a peacemaker, he quotes that a lot too. So when I see that, and then I'm like, man, I'm reading this in the people that actually live these things out. There's a lot of people that publish books, but it's different when you see it lived out among other people's lives, man. Those are the people I really strive to watch and read and listen to.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, it's easy to become an academic or egghead and read it, but it's a whole nother thing to walk it out. And that's the biggest thing I'm seeing right now. In a lot of things that are challenging in our Western culture right now, it feels as if there are people who've read about it, but there are not a lot of practitioners, people who've actually walked it out and seen it walked out. And so that's challenging, man, to, like, I tripped out the other day, Jay. I kid you not. I tripped out the other day because I've always, I've had, in seasons of my life, I've had, like, people I looked up to or mentors, but they never really kind of just poured into me, right? Like, it was kind of like we had conversations here and there. You should try this, da-da-da. And I look up, man, and I'm like, man, I'm like, the folks that I've been looking up to have been from a distance, right? Like, reading the MLKs, watching Ravi Zacharias, watching certain people that I'm like, man, I love the way they move, and they, like, he's on college campuses actually talking to people, and so I've always admired them from a distance. But then, man, like, a lot of those guys are, like, gone. And I'm like,
yep.
And so there's, like, I'm 45.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And so, and it's harder to look at your own life and say, I'm walking it out. It takes somebody else to say, man, now you're walking it out, right?
Yes, sir.
But, man, this is necessary, bro, because there's so many people who, you're right, they don't hear, like, I have a couple of people that I can talk to like this. You one of them, and my friend Larry's another. Like, there's not a lot of people I can talk to like this without people getting exhausted and just, oh, Lord, hear the Jesus stuff again. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it wells up on the inside. That's why when you talk about those Starbucks meetings, it was like, 30 minutes. Man, we looking at, man, I got to go, man. Then we walk to the parking lot. We still talking in the parking lot. Yeah. Getting in the car, getting ate by mosquitoes, still, Yeah. Because it's necessary for iron to sharpen iron. And I know a lot of Christians don't have that. They don't have a relationship where, like me and you, we can not talk for 3 weeks and we can start talking again. We just pick up right where we left off.
Yep.
A lot of Christians don't have that, and so they just live in their own little echo chamber, go to work, hearing all the stuff that the world has to offer, but they don't have the ability to articulate what they believe. They don't have the ability to talk through tough Christian conversations biblically, not feelingly, but biblically.
Yes, sir.
And so, man, I'm excited about this, man. I'm real excited about it, bro. We didn't already, like, this has been a 30-minute thing already.
We didn't finish one of them.
But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this after you send me your audio file, and I'm gonna chop. I'm gonna chop up into like little small segments, and I'm gonna start teasing.
Okay.
Podcast coming soon, and little segments. Put it out on YouTube. Put it out on Facebook. Put it out on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this gonna come together, bro.
Oh, this is it.
I'm excited, man. We just gotta. I guess we just gotta get together, man, ahead of time and maybe do a little
little planning and.
Yes, cause you know me. I have a conversation way over here. I love rabbit trails. They be like, I tuned in for a podcast about, and he talking about Canada Dry, and so I gotta stay, cause 30 minutes will be an hour and a half for me.
Yeah, just come up with a topic, man, and then send it to me, and then I guess we can both come up with a couple of points, or just like talking cues that we want to kind of build off of.
Okay.
And then we just stay on track as best as possible.
As best as possible. As best as possible. I be doing my little YouTube video. I say, man, let me knock out this little 5-minute video. I look up, I don't talk for 30 minutes. I'm like, gosh,
wow.
I gotta go in there and start editing.
Yeah.
I get it down to like 12 minutes. Mine say, it's still too long. Man, you better go sit down, girl. All the editing I did.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this though, bro. But man, we like even just this conversation, man, I got so much